Hey everybody, it's Joe Maez and Ammar Nesheiwat here.
Hey folks.
We're on our first episode of Buying Your New Home, the home buying process. This is part 1. So today we're going to break things down. So a little bit about myself and Ammar. So my name is Joe Maez. I'm the founder of the Maez Group. And in my career, sold close to 4,000 properties. So I want to be able to bring that kind of expertise to you and hopefully save you some time and a lot of money. And right here I have Ammar Nesheiwat. He's with Frost Mortgage Bank. And these guys are, go ahead and tell us about yourself.
We're a local lender. We've been in town for a lot of years. Our founder is Greg Frost. He's the first billion-dollar originator. Lots of people have heard about Greg Frost, even out of state and out of the country for that matter. Greg is our founder, and our current division president is Chris Frost. And we are local, and our parent company is PRMI, Primary Residential Mortgage Inc.
So closed a few loans last year, right?
Yeah, we closed a few. I mean, between Steve and I, we had about $44 million just between us two. And the year before, we had close to 200 units and $60 million range. So.
All right, guys. So what that means to you at home is you got experts working for you that know what they're doing and can save you a lot of time and money, because what we want you guys to get out of this series is save you some steps and maybe some mistakes that a lot of people will make. And as always, you're welcome to call us if you want to use our services. But for right now, we're just here to offer you some awesome free knowledge. All right. So let's get into it. So the first step, you're buying your first home. The number one thing in starting the process is, I'm always going to say it, it's getting pre-qualified, guys. The first thing you do when you go to the doctor, whether you have an ailment or whether you're going in for your annual physical, which everybody should be going in for an annual physical, is what do? They check your vitals, heart rate, they look at your oxygen level, your blood pressure, etc., taking your temperature, doing reflexes. So one thing that we like to equate that to is getting pre-qualified. Before you start anything, you got to get pre-qualified. So why is that important, Ammar, that people get pre-qualified?
So we're going to ask for blood samples and everything else.
And before you say that, I mean, it's like a lot of people don't want to do that, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to get pre-qualified. They don't want to go get a physical. But what's the end result? Normally, it doesn't turn out well if you don't go to the doctor, if you don't, the same thing
Unless
is if
you're a cash buyer, of course.
But we're not, there's cash buyers out there. I get it. No, that's a great point. If you're a cash buyer, then you don't have to get pre-qualified. But you should still talk to a financial advisor to see if using all that cash is the right thing to do. But a lot of people, if you put off going to the doctor, you put off getting pre-qualified, normally some things will pop up that might affect the life of your transaction, your purchase later on. So that's why we say eat the crust first, get pre-qualified.
Absolutely.
Pizza, the best part of the pizza, a lot of people don't want the crust. Well, you eat that first and you get
it over with.
So it's important to get pre-qualified.
Super important to get pre-qualified. A lot of people always ask me, what can I afford? What's my buying power? Well, the only way to really tell what your buying power is going to look like is if you talk to a mortgage professional. And what we do is keep it as seamless and painless as possible to go through the process of pre-qualification. And the best part is you don't need documentation to get pre-qualified. I mean, a 10-minute phone call is basically all we need to get pre-qualified.
But the more the better. And I'll just tell you guys from a broker perspective, as a broker that's represented thousands of purchasers on properties, why it's important is, you ever have your hopes and are really high, or maybe your expectations are really high, and you see something you really like just to find out that you can't get it. Or you don't want to find out that maybe you secure a property, right, through the offer process, and then all of a sudden you don't like the monthly payments that are associated with that.
Yeah.
A lot of people back out during purchases because they put the cart before the horse. For me as a broker representing buyers out there, it's super important that you get pre-qualified first, because then you know what you're working with. You know what your ability is. You know what your comfort zone is. You know that you're going to be able to take your family out on a vacation and not have to skimp on stuff and cut back on things, because nobody should be living for a home. Okay. It's important, but you shouldn't be worried about making your payments when it comes to purchasing a home.
Absolutely. And another topic is a lot of sellers want to see pre-qualified buyers before they enter their home. They want to see seriousness. They want to see that letter in your back pocket. So,
well, that's a great point. So let's just say you go in and there's a multiple offer situation, guys, because that does happen right now. A lot of people say, oh, well, it's 2023. The market's slowing down. No, it isn't. It depends on the property. But if a property is priced very well, it's very, very realistic that you're going to be competing against 2-3 buyers for that same property. Who do you think wins? The person with the pre-qualification letter
or pre-approval?
And we'll get into that.
Yes.
Or we'll get into that. The person that doesn't have it. The offers are equivalent, Okay, so let's just say both of you are offering full price and there's only hours to make a decision, but one of them has a bank letter, a pre-qual letter, and the other one doesn't. Well, I'm going to tell you guys 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the pre-qual letter that wins. So that's another reason why it's super important. Now, to ask the expert here, Ammar, realistically, everybody's putting off getting pre-qualified, right? How long does it take to get pre-qualified? How long does it take in minutes?
Honestly, we can probably knock it out in 5 to 10 minutes.
So 5 to 10 minutes, you can save yourself a lot of heartache, right?
Plenty of heartache, and
or put a smile on your face, one or the other.
Exactly.
You know exactly what you're working with.
Exactly. And we like to look at the entire picture of what program is best going to fit you during the pre-qualification. And we kind of take these notes on our behalf and we show you why this program is going to be best for you. If your credit scores are phenomenal and you have a large down payment or a small down payment for that matter.
So it takes 5 to 10 minutes to get pre-qualified.
Absolutely.
And, doesn't take very long. It's kind of like pulling off a Band-Aid, right? Do it. People get on Zillow, they get on Realtor.com. You guys see these payment estimates that are out there, guys. We don't want you to get tripped up with that, because a lot of times you'll see a house. A lot of times I'm getting calls from buyers saying, Joe, the payment's only $1,200 a month for this house that I saw on Zillow.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
They didn't read the terms and conditions underneath that payment. And a lot of those payments have to include a 20 or 25% down payment with perfect credit, with a buy down on your interest rate in some cases. I mean, it's really a bogey payment just to fish people into their website.
If somebody were to call you and invest that 5 to 10 minutes, they're going to know exactly what their payments are going to be. So that way they go in with their eyes wide open.
Oh, yeah.
From a real person that has real accountability, not some website that could say, oh, by the way, you didn't read the fine print.
Absolutely. We like to show reality. We like to give numbers based on your criteria and your situation.
All right. So let's, guys, these are terms. And again, all we're here to do is give you guys good information so that way you can make good,
free knowledge,
really good decisions. What is the difference between being pre-qualified and being pre-approved, and what are the advantages?
I think it's a huge advantage to be pre-approved over being pre-qualified. Like I said, pre-qualification, 5 to 10 minutes, word of mouth. I make X amount of dollars per year.
What kind of questions are you asking during the pre-qual versus?
I always ask, what do you make per year? Where do you work? Where do you live? How long you've been at your current residence? All these basic questions that you're going to ask is going to give us an idea of what your profile looks like. When it comes to that, you can get a pre-qualification letter where you can submit offers, but that's just all word of mouth. No documentation has been provided.
So you're taking people for their word, right?
Exactly.
And sometimes that works well out. You're just trusting people to be upfront about what exactly it is they make, etc. Right?
And I can't tell you how many times people forget what their hourly wage was or what they made last year or anything. I mean, I haven't checked my credit in a year, but I think it's pretty good. And I hear that all the time.
So
too.
pre-qual is a really good guess that you can qualify for X based off of what your consumer has told you.
Exactly.
And then pre-approved is
when you actually go ahead and take that extra step and provide documentation that's going to back up all the wording that we had discussed about. I mean, you're going to submit your pay stubs and your W-2s and your bank statements and your tax returns in some cases if you're self-employed. A lot of times we don't need tax returns, but we do like to have them on file, and we put those to the side unless in case we're asked for those. So documentation is going to be key for pre-approval, no documentation for pre-qualification.
All right, so I'm going to ask you kind of a biased question here, but I'm just going to do it anyway. Do you think it's important, who people use as a lender when it comes to, getting a loan, and why? Why do you think it's important?
Honestly, we're one of thousands of lenders, and there's so many good lenders out there. You just want somebody that's going to work on your behalf. They work for you. You always have to remember that, and you need to give them the courage and all the information that you want from them and buying a home. They see this every day as a lender. You don't. So you want all the knowledge, all the programs that are available. You want somebody that's going to back you up after hours or weekends in some cases, because a lot of times you're not going to have a online mortgage lender that's going to cut you a pre-approval letter on a Saturday evening when there's multiple offers on a house. And how many times have we seen that, Joe?
Yeah. So let's get into that, right? And of course, guys, by the way, Frost Mortgage and Ammar and Steve are my preferred lenders. These are the people that I recommend. Now, you could use whoever you want, but I recommend Frost to all my purchasers. In fact, they do about 90% of our business here, if not maybe a little bit more.
Absolutely.
And the reason I like that is because I get the clear cooperation, the communication. I know that my borrowers are getting communicated with, but also I know that the right expectations are being set when it comes to purchasing. The less surprise, and that's what this whole series is about, the Buy in Your Home series is about, is setting the proper expectations. And I believe in setting expectations early and often. There are, you said, like, there's thousands of lenders out there. So what's your main competitive advantage, guys? And again, you guys can use whoever you want to use. We're just trying to save you some steps here. Big banks, you know, nationals like a Wells Fargo, a Bank of America, you know, US Bank, blah, blah, blah. And then credit unions. What is the main difference between a Frost mortgage? And I can answer this question. I know you're going to be pretty humble about it, but I'm going to jump in once you start.
Absolutely. They're
humble.
all great. Honestly, I've seen everybody get the job done and everybody can get to the closing table, but you want to make sure you're going to be there in a timely manner. And that's the biggest obstacle I've seen, is a borrower trying to get a hold of a loan officer or trying to get a hold of somebody to say, where do I submit this document? Or I can't find my 2021 W-2. They have to call a 1-800 number in a lot of cases, and that's ugly. You know, the prompts to go through on pressing #0 that many times.
All right. So and what number do people get for you?
My personal cell phone number.
That's awesome, guys. That's like, in some relationships, you know how nice it is to have your own personal banker, which I think is huge. So let me give you a scenario. And this is how Ammar gets a lot of people that he works with, is we'll be out on a Friday, Saturday night, a Sunday night. This house comes on the market. The buyer wants the house. They want it right there and then. And then, you know, of course, they've been working with, you know, a big name bank or maybe a local credit union. Mm-hmm. And I say, well, in order to submit this offer, I'm going to want to see a pre-approval. The seller wants to see a pre-approval letter.
Absolutely.
And at that point, you know, they're like, well, I can't get a hold of somebody at XYZ company. And then what do I say?
Call our guys.
I say, all right, I'm going to get Ammar on the phone. Yes. He's going to pre-qualify you 5 to 10 minutes and maybe even pre-approve you in the next 30 minutes so we can submit a super strong offer. And that happens quite a bit, doesn't it?
It does. It sure does. And we've won so many deals that way. And honestly, I mean, the service alone is what counts for a bunch of people that say, you know what, I never thought I can get a hold of anybody this late on a Saturday. So let's just go ahead and go through the whole deal. And unfortunately, they call the other lender back on a Monday and say, I'm sorry, cancel everything. We got everything pretty much squared away.
Speed is everything.
Speed is huge.
Speed is everything, guys. And believe me, we are still seeing multiple offers out there.
Absolutely.
Situations. And of course, just like anything, opportunities present themselves at the most interesting of times.
There is also another thing I wanted to bring up, is that a lot of the larger banks and credit unions, and some do and some don't, have programs that we have that they don't. I mean, first-time buyer program, for example, MFA.
Yeah,
exactly.
Tell us about some of those programs.
So, I mean, MFA is a huge one that a lot of New Mexico uses. MFA is the Mortgage Finance Authority. Each state has their own entity in which you can take advantage of a down payment assistance program. And lots of bigger banks or credit unions don't have the ability to use those programs, but we do. We're local, and we have a lot of people that do use the down payment assistance or do need it. And it's a great program to allow you to be a homeowner with little to no money down.
So let me ask you this, just off the top of your head, how many programs do you have access to? Just shoot me the first. How many different programs, unique programs?
Honestly, I can name half a dozen right now, right off the bat, that are going to be criteria in our pipelines that we can use, and they're huge. I mean, USDA is a really, really good one that a lot of people don't know about. That's a rural program with a 0 down loan.
So those are things, and I don't, you know, that's not for this episode because I know you get all wild and crazy. You want to, but really, guys, the point I'm trying to make in episode 1 here is the value of getting pre-qualified first. The step number 1.
Absolutely.
Which is, I can tell you this just because I know, is that you won't know about what program, maybe a special niche program that you qualify for, if you don't invest the 5 to 10 minutes up front before you start, you know, driving around and looking at properties and calling on signs and getting on Zillow and Realtor.com and all these random websites. You're not gonna know. I have a saying, it's measure twice, cut once.
That's it.
It's one of my favorite sayings. It's so nice to be accurate. And guys, we're talking about your time, investing in you. And we say this because we care about helping other people and making sure that you guys are getting the best service possible. So the reasons to start, you know, episode number 1, just to recap, right?
Definitely.
Is start by getting pre-qualified.
Know what your buying power is. That's a majority of the thing, and what programs I'm going to be using.
Correct.
So those
investing the 5 to 10 minutes. We know why it's important because it gives you a competitive advantage, but also gives you peace of mind.
Comfort to know what your payments are going to look like. That's a huge one.
Clarity, right?
Clarity.
Everybody wants clarity and certainty, knowing exactly what. There's nothing worse than the unknown, right? So we talked about the advantages and disadvantages from having a local relationship from a reputable broker that has, closed thousands of properties and people that have closed thousands of loans. So we know about the value and the difference between banks. Not to say there's anything bad about them. It's just service is what is important. And believe me, there's a difference. There's a reason why there's people that are number one and then everybody else, because they have the systems and things like that. So we talked about the advantages, disadvantages. We talked about knowing the different programs that you might fit into. Like we could talk about later on, we have a program called Zero for Heroes, which Frost has, that's specific to Frost Mortgage Company, and that's for local, law enforcement,
all our heroes.
We talked about that, right? So that's really the important step. Investing the 5 to 10 minutes, and then ultimately, maybe spending, 20 minutes getting documents to.
And don't forget that pre-qual is good for 120 days, so it gives you plenty of time to go out and look for homes and go to get under contract.
All right, so that's our episode for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed episode number 1. If you guys know somebody that's going to be going through this process and you want to send them a little bit of love, you can hit like on our page here or share this on your social media. Next week, episode number 2, we go into searching for your new home, starting the search. You've been pre-qualified right now. You followed all the right steps. Now we're going to start the search and give you tips and tricks about doing that search.
Absolutely.
See you next week.
See you next week. Take care, folks.